Hi everyone, my name is Lindsey Marsh and I'm the owner and designer behind Sew to Grow Patterns, and I have such an exciting tutorial for you today. We are going to be looking at how to add the super on-trend bow cuff to any sleeve pattern that you have. So you could add it to a long sleeve, to a top, you could put it on a short sleeve, you can add it to a dress. So basically anything, you can really step it up a notch by adding this bow cuff detail. So first of all, you're gonna wanna print out your templates from online. And what you see here is I have the bias strip and my bow cuff little strip here pinned. I need two of these, two of those, and then whatever sleeve pattern that you have, you'll obviously want two of those. And so here I have them all cut out, ready to go. So then we're gonna move over here and we're gonna do a little bit of marking. So the first mark that you wanna do is you wanna find the center by folding this in half, and you wanna mark a slit 4 inches, all right? And we're gonna cut on that slit. And then you also want to measure up 3/8 of an inch and put a little dot. And I just like to use a water-soluble marking utensil so that it easily will come out with a little bit of water. And then the final thing that I like to do is mark the bottom at 1/2 of an inch. So when we go to put our bow cuff on, we have something to easily help us line up. So once I have that little slit cut open, I need to bind it with something. So I'm gonna take one of my bias strips, I'm gonna go ahead and fold it in half, wrong sides together. And I'm gonna start by pinning the edge to the edge of that opening. Don't need too many pins, just enough to tack it in place. And then right here where you have the mark, I'm gonna put a pin exactly through that mark. This is gonna be our stop sewing point. And then I'm gonna flip, and so I'll do this really simply. We're gonna flip at a 45-degree angle and then flip back down, because that's where we're gonna pivot to go back the other direction. So if you've ever made miter corners on a quilt, it's the exact same technique as that. Okay, and I'm just gonna pin that other side. Now, if your bias is a little bit longer like mine is, you are just gonna grab some scissors and trim that right off, so it's no problem whatsoever. And we're gonna pop over here to the sewing machine. All right, so have my normal foot on, my stitch length is at 2.5, and my needle is in the center of my machine, and I am just gonna do a 3/8 inch seam allowance. So I'm gonna start by doing just my little bit of a reverse stitch, take my pins out as I get to them. Okay. Now, the most important thing is when we get to that stop sewing mark, remember how we're sewing a 3/8 inch seam allowance, and I have my mark here, and I'm gonna sew right up to it, and I can actually feel it, and then I'm gonna stop. And the great thing about this is it stops with the needle down right on the dime, and I'm gonna pick this up, pivot it around, put my foot back down, and then I'm gonna sew the rest of the way down. Do a little back stitch at the end and cut that off. Okay. All right, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna come back over here and we're gonna miter that edge. So once that's all sewn, we're gonna grab this and pull this out of the way. And we're gonna use our little tool. See, here's the straight line, and I'm gonna do a miter corner from where I stopped sewing off the edge. So I'm just gonna take this and I'm gonna make a little mark, just like that. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to my sewing machine and I'm gonna sew right on that line. What I like to do is I like to start right at that point. Remember that stop sewing point where our stitching stops? And I'm going to just hand walk my needle down into position so I can see where I'm sewing. Put your foot down. Make sure your sleeve's over here out of the way. And then I'm just gonna sew right off the end. Do a little back stitch and give that a cut. Okay, so what we're gonna do is, now that we've done that, we're gonna trim this. This is trimming all that bulk off so that when you flip your bias to the right side, it's gonna lay super nice and flat. So I'm gonna flip all that around to the inside, and I'm gonna give that a really nice press. So now we're gonna pop back over here, and I'm gonna show you what that looks like to the inside. So you can see, I flipped it to the inside, I've pressed it, and I've also gone and I've top stitched really close to that edge so that this all lays really nice and flat, and it's all finished on the inside. Once you've done that, you're gonna put your sleeve right sides together, and you're gonna sew it at your normal seam allowance, and then you're gonna serge the edge or zigzag it if you don't have a serger at home. Now for your bow cuff. The first thing you're gonna wanna do is fold it in half with the right sides together, and then put your pins all the way. Now, my pattern piece already has the start and stop point marked on it. So if you look here, I have a starting point and a stopping point, because this is where the sleeve is going to have to fit in, okay? So we're gonna go to our machine and we're gonna sew our bow cuff. All right, so we're gonna start right at that start sewing mark that we put on our machine. And we're gonna again sew that at 3/8 of an inch. And we're just gonna do a little bit of a back stitch and then sew all the way down to the corner. And then we're gonna pivot right there and then flip and then sew off the end. Do a little back stitch and give it a cut. Okay, so you would repeat this on the other side, and to reduce the bulk for when we flip this right side out, I'm just gonna go ahead and take my scissors and cut, grade that seam back like that, and then I'm gonna go ahead and trim that corner off too, okay? So once you have all of that done, again, we're gonna pop back over here. Here's one I've already done, and I'm gonna use this really super simple, easy turner, and I'm going to put this onto here like that on one side, click it in together, push it to the other side of the thing, like that. So you can basically turn anything, even if it's really tiny, and then take that off. So then I would do the same to the other side, and then I would get in there with a point turner and something quite sharp, and then poke out those edges, and then go over to your iron, and you're gonna roll those seams out like that, and give that a really good press. The other thing you wanna make sure is these raw edges, you wanna make sure that they're folded in the 3/8 of an inch, and make sure that they're pressed really, really well. All right, so once all of that's done, now we're gonna place it onto our actual sleeve. So here I have one already pinned in. What I did was I matched up the centers first, and I put a pin, and then you can see over here, there's my line for the 1/2 inch, and you can also see these are ironed in, and I'm just gonna make sure that that's all nice and tucked in, and then I'm gonna put a pin like that. So you can see the cuff completely encases the sleeve, and now I'm ready to go back to my machine one more time and sew it down. So what I'm gonna be using today is an edge stitching foot. This is one of my favorite all-time feet. Has a little guide here in the middle, and I can move my needle to the right or to the left to be able to give me the perfect top stitch. So I am gonna take this off of my machine and quickly switch feet, and I'm going to move my needle over to the right. So to do that, when my machine's in a straight stitch mode, I'm just gonna click my width over to the right. Okay. And then you can start pretty much anywhere because you're gonna go around the entire circle, but just don't start on any of these bulky areas. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm lining up the guide with the edge of the fabric, and then my needle, I'm just gonna check and make sure it's far enough over before I start sewing. So I'm gonna tick it over one more so I make sure I catch everything. And then you just start going. Okay. And we are gonna go around the entire cuff. All right, make sure that's all flat and straight. And keep going. And I like to sew from this side instead of from the wrong side because I just find it much easier to keep everything in balance and all together. And look how absolutely perfect that top stitching is looking. I use this edge stitching foot every single time I need to do a hem. If the pattern wants me to follow a straight line, I rather put this foot on and get a perfect accurate line than try to eyeball it, because I see so many people when they're trying to do a top stitch and they just try to eyeball it with the same foot rather than changing feet, and you just get those wonky lines that never look quite professional. And then we're gonna pivot, and we're nearly there. Oh, it's so exciting. You're just gonna absolutely love having one of these cuffs. Just make sure that it doesn't get into your guacamole when you go eat Mexican with your friends. Ask me how I know. Okay, so we're nearly there. And that's so great. Like, look how fast I'm sewing, and I'm still getting a great stitch. Great top stitch. All right, so once you're all done, we're gonna finish these pivots. And then give it a little cut. All right, turn your sleeve right side out. Give it a little bit of a tie, like that. And there is your perfect bow cuff detail.